Okay. I don't see Kung on today. And John, any updates?
What?
Any updates? It's okay.
The replacement 1 TB, 4 TB drive shipped to the one that failed. He should be receiving it today, and he's shipping me back the old one, which I'll have to work with probably Salisa at Nathaniel School, Scranton. Is that right? Anyway, I'm getting that replaced by the manufacturer because it failed. So I expect to see the drive probably next week sometime, and we'll work on getting that replaced.
Hey, John, this is Dave in Colorado.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to let you know, when I put that drive on to the Grape 2, I did replace the SATA tape, the cable, with that wavelength that you had been talking about.
Okay.
And it fit much better into the Raspberry Pi, and it was much more solid connection. So that shakiness of the connection I felt went away when I changed the cable.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it not only, is booting differently now, which is great, but it also, I think, has a better physical connection between the drive and the Raspberry Pi. So I'd consider, if people have problems with that, to get that wavelength that you suggested, and it was only like $11. It was pretty.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate the feedback. Yeah, that whole thing was pushed pretty hard to meet the hard drop dead dateline, so we didn't have a chance to sort through some of that stuff. But with the way Bill Blackwell came up with the mount, putting it into the media directory and then not having it as part of the integral file system, I think is a much better way to do it, because it allows you to unmount it and mount it without having to worry about locking the system up if you reboot if it's not there. So
And just having it to not disconnect, because I swear gravity was causing it to
yes,
disconnect.
I had the same time darn problem. In fact, the DRF system at home, it did that to me twice. So yeah.
Well, I'm still having that issue. Well, that I brought it up months ago. It's just been crazy busy, so we'll resolve that at some point.
Yeah. So Grape 2 is up and running now with the new drive and the remote location?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay. I don't know who asked this, but
The answer is yes. Every year they have to be changed out.
yes.
Unless we get into some way of importing the data, or maybe they don't want the raw data, but as it stands now, that happens every year.
Well, I wonder if there's at least a way to reuse the drives and possibly send them out directly from Alabama.
Yes and yes. The drives we had to purchase this year were just the swap outs, so we had the second set, but the first set, they can just simply have all the files deleted. You don't even have to reformat them. And they can just be exchanged again, which is why I put the stickers on them so that the node number follows the drive to keep Bill's sanity so he doesn't get them all mixed up. And they're even numbered on the box on the outside, so when they fall on the floor, inside the box and everybody's cushioned very nicely, he'll still have a way of figuring out what drive is what.
On a related note, those thumb drives, those were just a backup in case of failure of the hard drive, right? Because
Correct.
the hard drives have been flawless. I've got about a half a dozen of them imported so far, and so far I haven't encountered any problems with the hard drive. This is
Excellent.
young, but we'll see. But
Yeah.
okay, just want to make sure I know. And also, I'm just working with what is termed the SRAW data. If there's other stuff on the disk drive, I'm not doing anything with it unless somebody tells me something else is important on those drives besides the Grape 2 raw data.
Well, the directory for the 3 radios that has the 1-second CSV files, that I think has been uploaded to the server already.
They have been uploaded to the WWV ARC server, but not to the Alabama server.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a way of getting the data off the WWV server, and I'll talk about it in a minute. We also have a way of helping people with their conversion over to doing direct upload to UA from the Grape 1 legacy systems.
One question I have is, do we want to do the same thing though for the Grape 2 systems for the those 3 CSV files, the 3 radio channels plus the magnetometer directly?
Thought the answer to that was yes, because I think Christina as well as Rachel, that's the data they're using, I believe.
Yeah.
So we need to get that CSV file data to the Alabama server as well,
Right.
so it's accessible.
So I guess somehow we want to apply the same script that we're doing for the Grape 1 legacy to the Grape 2 radio data files and magnetometer, because we don't have
Yes.
any other way to generate
Yes.
magnetometer data.
Yeah, anything that's in the transfer directory goes up to the server. So, and I think we're copying. I don't remember anymore. I haven't looked at that in a while. I don't want to misstep. But yeah, the CSV 1-second files are being used as well, so that does need to be uploaded.
Yeah.
Because that's what the WWDV server has.
Right.
So that data needs to be all collected as well.
And those files are all zipped, is that correct?
Yes, that's right, Dave.
Okay, so they show up as one file, because that would be important. If we have all these separate files, that would blow our file limit.
So they are zipped before they're uploaded to WWV, and so one decision to make is, do we want to do the same when we upload them to the PSWS server? Or do we want to just upload the raw data unzipped, in 3 or 4 files? In the case of magnetometer, it's 4.
It's really up to Bill whether he wants to do the processing or have it done for him. You spend the bandwidth on getting it in, or you spend the bandwidth on unpacking it.
Right.
Well, if you're talking about if you're talking about FLDigi data,
Yes.
do I understand correctly that the Grape 2s are collecting the 3 data items for the 3 bands, but in addition to that, collecting FLDigi process data for the
They're
same?
creating the FLDigi process data, yes.
Yeah, it's exactly the same data as Grape 1 legacy, but for 3 frequencies.
Radios, right.
And if a station has a magnetometer, that's an additional CSV file. So I think there are 5 stations with magnetometers on Grape 2 right now. I don't know, John, if you...
Yeah, I'm one of them.
I'm one of them. I
So
think
that's
Bob is.
40% of the data, then we know where it's coming from. And I'm keeping my niobium magnets away from it. But I guess, Bill, you have to decide whether, well, you should be getting that now, because if we're transferring the same files that we were transferring before, I mean, that's what you're transferring to your server every day. We're not transferring the raw data unless we convert it to digital RF, which I think is in the works or being done or soon to be done or whatever. But the files that you're getting now are the FLDigi files.
Well, I'm not getting those. Those are going to the WWV server.
Well, when we
Right.
get it changed over, you'll be getting those. Because that would be in line with what Grape 1s would be doing as well. So it's creating the same data set using the same software.
So is the magnetometer data also going to WWV?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, then if that's the case, I'm not going to bother with trying to get it off the hard drives that were shipped to us, because then I would have to remove duplicates from when I get it from WWV. My plan has been that we're going to switch people with Grape 1 legacy systems over to uploading to UA. Once they have that running, I would get all of their remaining files off of the WWV server.
right,
So we'll need to do something like that for the legacy style data coming from the Grape 2s, which is the FLDigi and magnetometer data. Once again, that'll come from WWV.
exactly, yeah,
So I'm not going to bother trying to get that off the hard drives that were shipped to me. That it's enough of a strain getting the data off of those systems, off those hard drives, and getting it. There's a lot that has to be done to get it on the system. You know, you have to convert it to DRF, then you have to run plots of all of it, and then you have to import it into. You have to put it in the right place in the system, and then you have to run another job that updates the database so that it points to it, so that you can look at the data and see the plots and all of that. So yeah.
That's a lot
So
of work.
yeah. I think you're right, you know, you're correct in leaving it on the WWV server until we're ready to cut over and then grabbing it all from there rather than trying to read it from the hard disks.
And I suppose we could add something to the Grape 2 systems so that they upload FLDigi data and magnetometer data directly to UA instead
Right.
of WWV. We can add that. Also, by the way, I should mention that we put the program into service now that allows you to generate a config file. If you navigate on the PSWS network system, if you navigate down into the instrument, you'll see a box that allows you to download a config file. And you can download a config file, and it does now capitalize it's variously called a station or the nickname, but anyway, that is now capitalized. That was requested last week, so that is now in production.
Bill, with reference to the Grape 2 files that are on the WWV repository, you can download or copy those now that are being copied over, and it's, you know, as you were doing it before, just copying the files from the FTP directory. And if you have the correct naming structure, it would be a good idea probably to get those off there, all the ones, and sort of make that, if we're doing this once a week now, or I don't know how often you're getting the Grape 1 legacy data that builds up, but if there would be a way to just copy the files and put them someplace, would be a really good idea.
Well, it's a question of bandwidth in my brain. Right now, I've been focusing on getting all the software working to do all of the importation of the big files off the 4 terabyte hard drives. And I haven't imported anything from WWV since about October of last year.
Okay, well, I should, I'll try to make a copy. I'm not gonna have time until probably Tuesday next week to look at it, but I'll try to make a copy of everything that's on there.
Now that I've got batch file programs running to do this, to do all of these, I can start running it as a production thing. Although one thing I have found out, these conversions load the server so much that it causes all the importing of uploads to fail.
Oh,
That is
no.
the production system. So
But
I
don't
have,
download during uploads.
Good luck with that.
well, no, it's the batch processing that takes so much CPU effort. Even with I've added 8 more cores, and it's still Linux isn't designed to be used as a mainframe, which is basically what we're doing here. So I'm probably going to have something that detects when the uploads failed. I mean, the data arrives and stored in the server. It's just putting into the database that fails. So what I'm probably going to need to do is have a cron job that runs, a couple hours after 00 UTC, see if the uploads failed, and restart the watchdog and run another program that reruns all the triggers or something while we're going to be doing this heavy duty use of the server, because I found out just to run the plots on one of these packages of files from a year's worth takes about a full day just to run the plots. Wow. So, yeah, that's after you've convert. Actually, the conversion to DRF is fairly quick, but running the plots is not. So,
Wow.
I'm not sure what it is that causes the watchdog to fail. I think it may have to do simply with the number of files on the system, but it also it's like some weird combination of the loading on the system as well as the number of files. I haven't been able to find anybody who even knows this angle of it. It has to do with the Linux iNotify system. There are some limits in it, which I think we seem to be probing. Anyway, we'll work our way through it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Bill, any other updates from you?
That's all from me, Rachel. Thanks.
Perfect. Is Michael or Rob on?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't have anything to report on. Well, a little bit on the antenna project. I think is Michael here? I don't. He would be better informed. But Elmer and Glenn have been looking at how to address what seems to be the most common case of very strong FM and/or AM signals. Really can overload these active antennas, and in ways that are not always obvious. Certainly, if you're only looking at the signals themselves, you won't see that. So they've come up with what they call a medium impedance option for the antenna preamp, which seems to sacrifice very little in terms of performance above 2,200 meters, and increases the overload tolerance by, I think, 6 dB or more. And Elmer, who's at a location on Long Island, has many strong AM. He's right by the water. AM. He's probably the worst case of anything. I think it's dramatically improved his sensitivity of his systems. So he's also working on the ELF system. I think he's been collaborating with Jonathan on that one. So that's, and of course, we're going to be Elmer and I are going to be at Nathaniel's all next week in Scranton, working on Nathaniel's antenna system, and hopefully we'll have time to look at some other things. So that's the antenna story. I should give an alert to everybody on. I don't think Nathaniel is here, so he may not have seen this, but in preparing for next week, we realized that these tariffs are going to have a dramatic um, effect on the cost of the Daisy 2 deployment if we don't get receivers and B-links before then. The we're talking about triple the cost or quadruple the cost of the RX 888s and probably the B-links too. So we've been investigating how to pre-order to get an order in before the full effect of the Trump tariffs. The already the de minimis limit is going to expire, and but it is the only way to dodge right now to dodge those tariffs. So I think Nathaniel was inquiring about if we could divide up our order and get 6 or 7 or 8 people to order RX 888s individually. Each order would be under the current until May 2nd de minimis limit. And in which case, of course, there's so much uncertainty and change in the rules right now. So we're depending upon the news articles instead of learning really directly from the Customs Department. We don't really know what will happen to these orders. But the thought is that if we can either sequentially order one day at a time or enlist a group of us to each order, an order of 4 of these from the vendor is $676. So those orders would still qualify under the de minimis order limit, $800 limit. So this is very obviously very timely. We've got a couple weeks, to figure out if we can get the orders in. The vendor apparently has the units in stock, so it's not an issue of that. But how we go about doing this seems very timely. So you might see an email from Nathaniel in the coming days looking for volunteers to place an order for 4, and then of course you'd get reimbursed by Hamsci for these. Anyway, this is a significant impediment to our could be significant impediment to our Daisy 2 deployment. If we went from he was going to order 30 of these, that's a $5,000 order. I think it becomes a $15,000 order if we have to pay taxes, these new tariffs. Anyway, so we might look, I think Dave Whitten and I have volunteered. Nathaniel could place an order. So we've got 3 of the 7 or 8 people that we've ready to place orders individually. It's very easy to do, and this is a very reliable vendor, or something kits. This is David McCaw's preferred vendor, and they seem really reliable. They responded to the order for 30 by saying, "Do you realize you sure you want to place this order because you're going to be paying $10,000 in customs duty if you order them all at once." So Nathaniel has a question into the University of Scranton finance department about what's an appropriate way to deal with this. Anyway, any of you are interested in having your own 888 or other Chinese-based equipment, be alert. You've got a two-week window here to order things before they become incredibly expensive. And of course, there's no alternative vendors. I mean, um, we looked into having these or similar things built domestically, and the cost is 20 times uh, the cost from the Chinese. So there's no domestic alternative, perhaps ever, without for the kinds of parts that we're using in this project.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
so do I have this straight? What you're looking for is volunteers to buy 4 of these systems, the RX 888, and then they would be available to be distributed, and that person would be reimbursed at a later date. Did I understand correctly?
Yeah, you'll probably get. I mean, I've submitted expense reports after I've been debited and even before the stuff arrives. So I don't think you need to. I can't tell you. I haven't been through the process yet, but I don't think that there's a cash flow problem for you. I think it's just that you're going to have to receive these things and then would have to forward them on um, to Chris Scranton.
Okay,
Rob,
you can
Rob,
put me.
But I
Yeah.
don't know that I'm we're experimenting, and I'm waiting to hear from Nathaniel.
Well, if I'm
Rob, at
correct,
Colorado State University, we can't do that. If
Yeah.
if you have a grant, they will not do any petty cash purchases. It has to go through the whole system, at least at our university. So you need to get that cleared from Nathaniel before you
Oh,
promise people reimbursement for sure.
yeah. Well, that's why I say don't do anything until we hear from Nathaniel. I mean, I've purchased other stuff and been reimbursed for we're bringing up a new set of Whisper Daemon servers to support this Daisy 2 and and I've just submitted invoices for that. Dave, I have a server for you, a B link to go into that's sitting here. Isn't I need to change the BIOS and I could ship it to you, but I'm so busy I may not ship it
No
until.
rush. I'm very busy.
Yeah, so I'm not, but it is. I do have one of the new B links, the more expensive ones. If I think I'm buying the latest model, which with the latest Ryzen, which is a real powerhouse and is for $475. It's an incredible
Rob, could you put the link to that in the chat?
to the B link.
Yeah,
Yes, I will right now.
thank you.
Yeah, if
Rob, when
you.
we all have a little time, I do need to operate on the RX 888 as well. So
Uh, uh,
to make the
oh yeah.
modifications.
Oh
We
yes,
haven't
yeah, we need to do. We're gonna train Majid on how to do those modifications next week when we're there. And there is an article, a blog article by Clint, KA7OEI, about how to make the mod to remove the bias T inductor. But so
We'll talk
and
about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think yours has been modified, the external clock and thermals. The only thing yours.
I did the clock on it. Yeah, it's done. So
Yeah. So I think the only thing missing in yours is remove the bias T.
correct.
And we continue to get great results in terms of tone burst offset. But I can't run that old processor at 129 megasamples.
On the TC, right.
Yeah, the old ThinkSetter won't run reliably at that rate. And so we really need the new B-Links for all of the DAISY deployments because there's good reasons to be running at 129 megasamples, even if you have a 30 megahertz low pass filter in there to anti-alias. The RX chiplet is so leaky that if you even if that the filter on the RF SMA input doesn't block FM signals very well. So if you have local, it's not that the filter doesn't block them; it's that the USB cable and the rest of your shack is basically a FM loop antenna. Uh, and the input of the 888 sees those FM signals, it aliases them down into your passband. So it's and um, you can't really suppress it. I mean, ferrites on the USB cable to the 888 only modestly reduce your FM ingress.
Well, we'll get it out at some point.
But I'm speaking about that generally for everybody. Is that this is once again, it would be really nice to have our own design, although it seems like it would be incredibly expensive now to have it manufactured. Um, okay, you wanted a link to the
Rob,
you guys
I'll
know.
just chime in here. What's expensive is the A to D converter, and there must they must be using a um, knockoff version of it in the Chinese, and they do seem to be available. We should perhaps get some
Uh,
and try them.
I- our experience with fabrication costs here, we were looked for alternative domestic vendors for the preamp, in the SAS, and the quote was 20 times what we pay JLPCB for it.
You're talking about actual assembly cost.
Yeah, assembled
Oh,
assembled systems. Unless you want to, set up our own manufacturing line. Uh, we if you want to buy our own chameleon or whatever we're going to call it,
yeah,
uh, anticipate it will cost you at least 10 times what it would cost from GLPCB, and
yeah,
that's
interesting.
that's
Well,
independent of the cost of the chip.
I'll just mention that we do have assembly set up here at Dartmouth for surface mount. Um, we have a reflow oven and all that. Being that this is an educational enterprise, we may be able to get students to do this for us.
Well, that would be um,
So,
anyway.
yeah, we might consider it, and uh, other
I'm not
institutions
really
can do the
involved in
same.
designing the
Right.
replacement for the
Well, we
triple eight,
can we can talk about that
but it'd be
a
great to,
forum.
yeah, alternatives would be really welcome because this really seems to be a real,
That's something we could perhaps talk about on the Monday night.
yeah.
You
I'm
can ask
looking for.
grad students to do anything, right?
Yeah, we routinely assemble fairly large numbers of fairly complex boards for our rocket projects, so we do have experience there. It can be done.
Let's see, captions. Here's the link to the Amazon page for the B link. There's a cheaper version uh, that uses a uh, now end of life processor, 6 core, but this one is an 8 core, and it has double the cache, almost 4 times the CPU cache time. So this B-Link. It would be a, a good long-term investment. In terms of, I think, who
Do you actually
maybe,
post it?
maybe Bill, you ought to be running your graphs on some of these things because they're faster than my Dell servers, 40 core Dell servers, but of course those are old.
We're not seeing anything on chat. Did you post it?
Uh, oh, I'm sorry, it didn't go. It just I went to. I want to go to everyone. Okay, I went to.
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, again, this is probably, since it comes from China, another item that will go up dramatically in cost, I would expect. So, in the near future. So, let's see. They only allow you to order one or two.
They're making it look like a Mac now.
Yes, it looks a lot like a Mac Mini, um, and it has about 3 times the CPU power of one, and it's 50% less.
That's like twice the cost of the one we were using.
Yes, the previous version, which had the Ryzen 5 5700, is I think current cost is about 270. So that's an alternative if if you don't think you want, if you want to. I mean, those are they're about 50% less. It's hard to, it's hard uh, to really compare CPUs in our applications because really our application is not really CPU bound. It's memory access bound. Most
So,
of the
so
and
what does this gain us over the Ryzen 5 Beeling?
it's a 6 core and smaller
But,
caches, and I'm looking for uh, let me uh, let me look for that in my
but is this necessary for the software we're trying to run?
it's certainly necessary to host the triple eights if they're going to run at
So they can't run on the 50, on the 5 anymore?
I'm sorry.
They won't run on the previous
Oh no,
Beeling?
no, absolutely. Yeah, they'll run on the previous, and this one is here's the 5700 6 core um, version.
I'm still not
Which is,
clear why you're recommending we buy one at twice the price.
uh, because of the higher performance in memory, it's a future, future proof. But it's your choice, whether you. Um,
What are you gonna have Nathaniel buy? These?
uh, we haven't talked about it yet. It's a,
Very
it's
good.
a, it's a. Uh, I think it's. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, you can buy at most 3 at a time from Amazon of these, and I hadn't really thought. I was more concerned about I've been more concerned about obtaining triple eights. That's just came up on, I think, Monday night call. So, I mean, all of these things come from China, so I presume they're all going to be subject to the same set of taxes, but who knows? It may change. Obviously, it has. Can We can now buy assembled uh, devices with no tax, but if we buy parts, we pay tax. That's a great way to encourage U.S. manufacturing. Um,
Yeah, well, you can't fix stupid.
no. Uh,
Got a technical question about the old grape system. May I share my screen?
Go ahead.
Oh, where is my screen? Okay, are you seeing a couple of old grape graphs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've seen a number of similar graphs to the top one, where up in here the frequency is basically a straight line. This is more normal. The bottom is more normal. We've got a tilt to it, and this one actually is quite quiet. I've seen some much stronger, but I'm concerned that something is wrong with it's low signal level, lower than usual, and an almost straight line here for the frequency. Now, I do have a number of 10 megahertz things running around the shack, but any guy have any ideas on why this is a straight line?
It could be the 10 megahertz leaking in from the shack to give you that very nice straight line.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah. Hmm.
Joe, what's the nature of your other 10 megahertz sources? Can you
I
turn
can
them
just
on and
barely
off?
hear you, Rochelle. Okay, anybody else have any comments?
Can you?
Thanks.
How far are you from WWV?
520 miles.
Yeah, it could be E layer. propagation.
Oh,
E layer
Yes.
is more stable than F, and we'll give you a fairly straight line when it comes in.
I've seen a half a dozen of these recently, where normally it's got this slope to it. Okay, so I could be propagation, could be leakage. Thanks, everybody.
You know, at that signal level, I'd be more inclined to say it was propagation. But that the 10 megahertz has that characteristic downward slope, and all my graphs always have that.
Yeah, okay. They normally do now. There were times, years ago when I had nice straight lines, but more recently it's been that downward slope. Okay, am I unshared?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Back to net.
I believe Christina had a comment in the chat.
Yeah, does my microphone work? I can't tell.
Yes.
Okay, well, I basically said it in the chat anyway, just that those both sound plausible. My suggestions, which you're probably already thinking, are to check for stations nearby you and see if they have similar patterns on the same days. And then also to, if you can turn your 10 megahertz sources in the shack on and off, see if you can walk through them. Oh, you're on mute, Joe.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, couple of comments. There is another station. I don't think anyone is using the Grape One though.
Hmm.
The old Grape. My
Oh, I'm using them.
Say again.
I'm using them. Both the Grape One and the DRF.
The DRF shows a slightly different pattern. I do have both running.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll poke around some more. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I've got a Grape One, the old Grape One as well. What day was that graph on? I want to check mine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's on the 12th. And it was yesterday also.
Yeah.
So the
Just
12th
look.
and the 16th.
Okay, I've got the 16th pulled up. I don't see that. I've got my frequency is it's down, but it's not a flat line.
Okay, you're in the Midwest?
Yeah, I'm in Evansville, Indiana.
Okay, well, I'm out here in northern Arizona. Okay, I'll poke around and look for leakage from my other sources. I've had a Tracor frequency comparison unit go bad on me here in the last couple of days.
I think your electrons are too dry out in Arizona.
You're
Yeah.
probably right, but we're about to get a little tiny bit more moisture over the next couple of days. We hope for a lot more. I mean, it's dry, and today has got red flag warnings over a significant part of the state.
Oof.
Yes. Yeah, we don't need a repeat of Los Angeles.
No.
Okay, any other questions or concerns?
Did I
Anything
see
else?
correctly that the ARRL frequency measuring test is tonight? What it looks like in their website. So
Yep.
just sure everybody knows if anybody wants to work with that.
Okay, any other announcements, questions, comments, or concerns? 73, everyone.
88.
And 88.
Thanks, guys. 73.